Oh, absolutely. Good evening, and thank you all for being here. Thank you very much. My name is Laura Hartman, and I live in the apartment complex Sunset Garden here in the town of Ulster. I'd like to start by introducing the representatives from organizations and municipalities that are here tonight. First off, Mr. James Quigley, who is the Town of Ulster Supervisor. Kathy Moniz, our Town of Ulster Buildings Inspector. James Maloney, our Ulster County Legislator for the towns of Ulster and Kingston. Jared Guess, who's from the Town Board in Esopus. Karen Winkle Gorsline, confidential executive for the superintendent for the town of Esopus. Nina Dawson, Commissioner, the Ulster County Human Rights Commission. Quentin Cross, Hudson Valley lead organizer for Citizen Action. Oh, Alex, I don't know if I'm going to do it. Panagiotopoulos. All right. Housing Committee of the Hudson Valley Democratic Socialists. And Taskia De Rosalia, where are you? There you are. She's Property Management Supervisor from RUPCO. And Carl Brown.
He's a commissioner.
Carl Brown here from the Human Rights Commission. And just walking in on time, Laura Pettit, who's the Ulster County Legislator from the town of Esopus. Thank you all.
We're also Lynn Eckert from the
She will be here, yes. Yeah. So I thank all of you for being here tonight and coming out to help us. I have lived in Sunset Gardens for 11 years, since July of 2007. I was always fortunate to have good neighbors and a built-in community. I've watched my neighbors' kids grow up. I've baked them cookies and cakes. I've watched them on occasion. It's been a really good place to live. On March 9th of this year, that all changed when E&M Management bought the property and took possession of it. That morning, we had our staff and maintenance people in the office as usual. By noon, they were gone, removed from service. The office phone was disconnected, the office shuttered and locked, and all we had was a list of numbers and names from E&M Management. They took over on a Friday, and that weekend it felt like we were completely adrift. No one to call in an emergency. That first experience was very telling in how they continue to treat us. Before E&M Management, I had no occasion to meet our Town of Ulster building inspector. But now here she is. But I did on the evening of May 26th. We had a sewer backup in the laundry room in my building, in our main laundry facility, and our calls to maintenance supervisor went unanswered. In 98-degree heat, this was a huge problem. After 5 or so hours of trying to get them to fix the problem, we were left with no choice but to call the fire department for help. It was then that we met our building inspector, Kathy Moniz. She in turn called the health department and James Quigley, our town supervisor. Since that time, they have been working with us to resolve issues, but it's like playing whack-a-mole. After that sewer incident, which caused the evacuation of several residents and caused the loss of our laundry facility, which has never been replaced, we, the residents of Sunset Garden, have organized a tenants association. We have been told by Isaac Horowitz, the property manager, that he does not want one. He does not like them. We, however, need each other. We have been trying to get people involved, but they are afraid of being evicted. You see, what E&M is doing is they are letting leases from Morgan Management, the prior owner, expire, and they are not issuing renewals. My lease ran out on July 30th of this year. My 88-year-old neighbors ran out on July 15. Another tenant in my building has been on a month-to-month since May. People are afraid of speaking up for fear of being evicted, as they now do not have a lease. Residents are afraid to report the maintenance problems they are having in their apartments for fear of being evicted. They are afraid to come to meetings to ask for help for fear of being evicted. Their fears are justified. I made a complaint with our building inspector on October 15th about a leak in my kitchen that was shorting out the ceiling light. It took 2.5 days and several calls for them to send someone over to look at it. They sent someone unqualified for the job, and he came without so much as a screwdriver. This was a Saturday. He told my upstairs neighbor he would be back on Monday. By 3 p.m. on Monday, no one called, no one showed up. I called Kathy for help. Kathy had maintenance knocking on my door in 30 minutes. It took another 15 hours or so, 3 trips to the store, but they finally got the leaky pipe repaired Tuesday afternoon. So I reported this to the building inspector on October 15. On November 14, I was given a 30-day notice to vacate my apartment by December 31. E&M is evicting me. In 11 years, I have never been late with my rent and have taken very good care of my apartment. There is no good reason to ask me to leave except for the fact that I have been a leader in our tenants association. I have reported problems to the building inspector, and I have been outspoken about what we are dealing with here. Rich Thompson, another property manager, has told one of my neighbors they only want millennials here. He has told me many times they will be getting rid of all the troublemakers. Am I a troublemaker?
No.
Why?
No.
Thank you, Stanley.
Yeah.
Why do they want so many of us to leave? Not renewing a lease or two is an oversight, but doing it as standard practice is on purpose. There is very much a plan for this. This is why we have problems with other tenants speaking out. It's why some municipality offices may not have heard about this until recently. The other side of this issue is this company has also bought Lakeshore Villas in Port Ewan, Dutch Village and Kingston Waterfront in the city of Kingston, and Black Creek and Highland. That makes us all more fearful of being forced out. Where will we go? So tonight, I'm going to open the floor to hear from a few people to give more evidence of what is going on. Then we can look at a couple of areas of what we can do to help people who are afraid of retaliation but whose needs are not being met. The New York State Tenants' Right Guide, published by the New York State Attorney General, says that under the warranty of habitability, tenants have the right to a livable, safe, and sanitary apartment, a right that is implied in every written or oral residential lease. What can we do as a community to make sure that tenants' conditions are not less than this? I have one suggestion that I would like to see people in this room implement, and that is a tenant's guide. A guide that would explain the eviction process, a guide that will help residents to realize that they are not alone in dealing with this. It could give an example of a legal eviction notice, let them know they should not be paying charges added onto the rent after they have signed a lease, a list of resources of who they can call if they have a problem with the landlord, among other helpful information. People are falling for bullying tactics from this landlord, and it must be stopped. I and a number of residents have been speaking out about this for months now. We have to act now to protect our communities and residents who are vital contributing community members here. We can't let them force these people out. I'm concerned for my 88-year-old neighbor who would not be able to make a move at this point in her life. Please help us protect these neighbors. There are many people in this room who have resources, who have ideas, and who have the means to make change. The residents here are ready to work with you. So, thank you.
I just need to commend you and all the other tenants for doing what you guys are doing, because, I'm sorry, can you guys hear me? Because I'm Nina Dawson from the Ulster County Human Rights, and one of my colleagues is here. And I think, I came to your last meeting, and I feel this is something that should have actually been stopped. That we should have actually worked harder to make sure that this didn't get to this point. And you and I have talked, or me and many of you have talked, and I actually have something I want to give you. I should have gotten here earlier to give you. You're looking for resources to get around this situation. If you guys can pass it around. This is just a landlord, this is just a lawyer's site that I actually pulled up to get tenant information for you guys, because your idea to have a guide is a beautiful idea. There should be a guide that says from A to Z, and there's a lot of information out there, it's just all over the place. Mm-hmm. So right. You guys have the option to go to a lawyer, which is what, when you guys actually came to the Human Rights Commission, we kind of directed you in that way. Come on in, Lynn. Sorry to put you on front street.
And here's Lynn Eckert, County Legislator.
That's fine. So basically, I'm here in support as a community member, because my mother always said, never by the grace of God go, I could be me. It could be someone else in our community that's being outed. And on this sheet that I just passed around, it gives you information about one of the tactics that a landlord could use to get tenants out, just letting your lease run out. And that's basically what he's actually doing as an intimidation process with you guys. And I think as a community, if we stand together as a community, that this man won't be so, he won't be so eager to use his bully tactics with you guys that he has. Because gentrification is wrong, I don't care what direction it comes from. And that's basically what he's doing. And not only your 88-year-old neighbor that you're concerned about, but what about the disabled people that are in your building, in your complex, that have been given the opportunity to live independently? Like, what if that was my child, that I hope that one day could live independently, and they've been given that opportunity in your complex, but now they're being gentrified right along with everybody else. To disrupt somebody with a mental condition, imagine what that's going to do to them. So as a community, this is way deeper than Sunset Gardens or Black Creek or whomever. And I think as a community, we have to show support, and that's specifically why I'm here. So this sheet that I passed around is just something to show you that there are ways for actually dealing with this. And if you guys do, like, go to a lawyer, you have some information right here about how you can use this as guidelines, because it's wrong. It could be one of us.
So I'd like to start first off here. I'm just one resident, but we have several others here. And we actually have somebody from Black Creek, Eric Hen. Eric. Would you like to say a few words?
Sure.
Is it the whole same management system
Yeah.
for all the complexes?
Yeah, they use the same maintenance people. Basically, they assign them different places. We never know who's going to knock on our door. And there's two property managers, which I mentioned in my statement. It's Horowitz, who seems, he's like a regional, I would describe him more as a regional manager. He's in charge of all the properties. Richard Thompson is a property manager on site, and he, I believe, lives at Lakeshore Villas, and he is in charge of maintaining and running all of these properties.
So you have had no direct contact with the E&M organization?
We have. Isaac came up at the very beginning. He came to our first tenants meeting where we were all very upset, and we sat down and had a very nice conversation, and we asked for a few things, like a real list of people, because they said that we didn't follow their protocol when we were reporting that big sewer issue that I talked about. I called the maintenance supervisor. A number of other people in this room did the same thing. So we asked for a list. Who do we call for what? We are still waiting for that list, and that was back in July. John? July. So, and he comes up to the property once a week supposedly, but he is like the invisible man.
Well,
We don't see him much.
Before our first meeting, I got a phone call from Isaac informing me he didn't like Tenants Association, he didn't want this meeting going. After I informed him that it was an informal meeting, informational meeting, so we can put ourselves on the same page as management, then he agreed to it. But he still doesn't want these meetings.
Yeah, and he's not been back. So we have very little, and it's hard to get him on the phone. You can leave a message. It's kind of like the big black hole. So
I have a quick question before he speaks. Laura, you were given an eviction notice. That's one of the things that I'm sure you're going to go into tonight. How was that process? How were you given an eviction notice from the landlord? Did it go to the sheriff's department? Did you go to court? Because that sheet that I passed around gives you information about the correct process. So many people don't know, and they're intimidated out of places without even knowing the process.
well, and that's right. They have. I was served by a man coming to my door and gave me the letter.
Did you go to court?
Not yet. What happens is if I don't vacate the apartment on December 31st, then they serve papers and I have to go to court and try to defend myself. I'm somewhat out on a limb because I'm a month-to-month tenant. They can put you, and when you're a month-to-month tenant, you can be put out without cause.
Well, that is, it's called a holdover proceeding, and it is legal.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But once you don't leave after an eviction, then you go to court at a holdover proceeding. And unfortunately, a market rate landlord does not have to give a reason to terminate a lease.
But many people go before their court date, which is a hope of the landlord. And
Right,
that's
they'll
my
go to
point.
their court, they'll go to, right, well, most people
No,
leave
no.
before their court date,
My
but
point
when they
is-
show up in court,
Right,
unfortunately, the court will usually give you a longer period of time
that's my
to
point.
stay, but they, as a general rule, cannot stop the eviction. What you can do is reach a different agreed upon date to leave so that you don't wind up with an actual eviction on your record, because
Right.
again, like you said, that can hinder you getting future housing, having an eviction, even if it's not a non-payment eviction. Unfortunately, I've gone to court for actual non-payment evictions. There's a number of tenants from private landlords there whose landlords have chosen not to renew their leases because they want to renovate and up the rents. It's a huge problem here.
What I hear you saying is that he's in his legal right not to do that.
It's disgusting,
So-
it's disgusting.
So
but he
there's
is.
not a law crafted as of we speak today.
Not for market
For
rate
that.
housing, not for, so this is market rate, so I work in affordable housing. Affordable housing, you can't just not renew somebody's lease, but in market rate housing, you unfortunately do have the opportunity because you want to take it back and rent it to your kid, or
Right.
because you want to raise the rent.
So if there was a law,
If there was a law, then the law
so I
trumps.
want to hear.
So the only way that you could protect yourself if you're on a month-to-month is if it's retaliatory,
Right,
and if you can prove that.
which it would
So-
seem like.
Well, retaliatory, you guys haven't had laundry services, these were delayed laundry services, that's part of your previous lease prior to this man coming in. One of your amenities was pool service, you didn't have that. Like, he reneged on on the portion of the lease, so, I mean, one thing I think is scary to be in a position like this, but there's strength in numbers.
Right.
And I think people coming together is beneficial to those that have been and will be affected.
And that's the point of all of this, is
Right.
we are stronger in numbers.
Right.
So let's hear, Ben, thank you for coming up and coming out tonight and being willing to speak.
So my name is Eric. My roommate and I moved into Black Creek Apartments April of last year, which was shortly after E&M purchased the property. And when we moved in, we looked at the apartment. It looked good. We noticed a couple things wrong with it, namely it needed new skylights, and the windows, the tracks on the windows were broken so they don't stay up. And we were speaking to Rich that day, and he said, you know, he told us that they just bought the property, there was a lot of stuff to fix, and he swore up and down that the windows would be working by summer. It's a year and a half later now and he hasn't touched them. It got to the point that in summer we had to go buy our own screens to prop the windows open. The windows didn't have screens in them. So we had to go buy our own screens to prop them open. We sent the receipts in along with our rent check and subtracted the amount, and thankfully they didn't fight us on that.
The windows are a big deal because we live in an attic apartment, so it gets easily 90, 100, 110 degrees up there.
Yeah, which is certainly unpleasant for us, dangerous for our animals. Let's see. Rich has on a couple of occasions shut the water off on us without telling us to do work on the plumbing, and without telling us beforehand. We also lose water if the power goes out, which happens fairly often during storms and whatnot. Because I guess the pump shuts off along with the electric, but then we have no water. The circuit breakers in pretty much every apartment there, we've heard, are not up to code. They've made no effort to replace them. The ground fault in the bathroom, if it's raining heavily outside, that'll trip a lot of the time, which says to me there's probably a leak in the system somewhere. Water's getting in and tripping it. We also our skylights leak, which again, Rich said he was going to fix by the summertime. Hasn't touched them a year and a half later. Not in our apartment itself, but in the hallway leading up to it, there's a hole just rotted through the ceiling that water drips in through. They had a bucket under it for a while, but you know the water damage is all still there. They've done nothing about that. We have a few soft spots in our floors that we noticed. They said that they were going to come replace our carpets at some point, and my roommate noticed these soft spots and told them, you know, when you do that, fix our floors. Carpets haven't been touched, floors haven't been touched. And twice now, we had an appointment for a building inspector to come and take a look at the place, and twice the inspector didn't show up. So we have no proof one way or the other, but we're wondering if they didn't get in touch with the inspector and say not to bother.
May I ask, did you contact the building department yourself to lodge a complaint?
Laura?
My neighbor did, because she had an electrical fire caused by a maintenance issue. And I really don't want to get into that because I know that she's got a lawyer involved at this
No,
point.
that's fine.
But she went and contacted him herself and
Because that's what we try to do here.
Yeah.
And Laura's been really helpful with getting the word out, and people call the building department, and then we're able to go out and do the inspection and try to get compliance.
yeah, no,
I'm
she
sorry.
had
That's all
time
right.
set up twice for that and he just never showed up both times.
So that was my list, and many of these issues, we've had multiple promises that they're gonna come in and fix it, we never see them.
I've stopped even bothering to tell him that there's things wrong.
Yeah.
Because it, promises and then he doesn't follow through.
Can I suggest you don't do that?
Yeah, I know.
Continue
I'm
to
just- I'm
continue
dealing
to
with
reach out
so
to
much
them and make
stuff.
sure that you document every time you do.
Yeah.
Because by doing what you're doing, they're winning that
I know.
battle, and that's something that's
You just,
really
you hit
important.
this point of burnout.
I know, but even if it's a phone call and a message left and you know they're not gonna respond, take the 2 minutes to do it, keep a notebook with the dates that you called, the message that you left, so that as time goes on, you've got documentation, so they can't say, oh, well, my apartment is destroyed because you didn't tell me such and such was going on.
And he wants you to text him so that he knows what, so I mean, that would be the easiest record in the world.
Absolutely.
Yes.
All the things that you said were wrong when you first moved in, were any of those things noted in the lease?
For the
You
move-in
said that
inspection?
Some of them we noticed within like a month of moving in.
Oh,
Because we
but
moved
the
in
thing-
April and so it was, we didn't check the windows until it got to be June, July,
Oh,
that kind of
right,
thing,
okay.
so.
So he said you had already signed the lease when he said he would fix it, so it wasn't part of the,
The windows were not, there were a couple other things that were like the trim on the door and the hole around the shower head, and
Yeah,
things like
and
that.
and I'd have to check the wording, but doesn't the lease say something about they'll, make basic repairs and stuff like that?
I think so, I'd have to double check it. Because there's one part where it says it does, they do, and then there's another part where it says they won't.
Nice. All right.
Just
Yeah.
a quick question to the building inspector. When you're looking at a building like that has a pump that's working on electricity, would you not take into consideration if they lose electricity, that they should have a backup generator there? Is
Wait,
that?
she's not their building
I'm not-
inspector.
No,
And
I
that's
know, but I'm just
okay.
asking, wouldn't that not be something you would look into?
There was a continuous problem. It would be to have compliance on the electrical system. And that is under our National Electric Code, and that's something that we would enforce. I'm not sure that a generator would be a temporary fix for electricity, but it would be our job to get compliance for the whole system, to make sure so that you wouldn't need a generator.
And you wouldn't use power.
Correct.
Well, if the power's going down because of, say, a Central Hudson outage, though, they're still gonna lose their water. And unfortunately, when buildings are built, or properties are developed, if it was done 30 years ago, there's not a requirement to change things to today's code. So maybe if it was built today, they would have to install a generator. But honestly, that's not even a requirement in most places, any type of generator. So that's something that you run into.
But I do know that when he's doing maintenance on it, he has to give you a warning, and he doesn't.
Right, yeah, absolutely.
Who is your building inspector? What's town or city?
That's the town of Vesuvius.
That's all I need.
Liz, would you like to say a couple of things? Sure. Liz is one of the tenants that I mentioned in my statement that was evacuated with our sewer issue in May at Sunset Garden.
Yeah, that was May 26th. I moved in the complex last December. I had a couple issues right when I first moved in with the old Morgan, who used to own the place. Within 24 hours, they came in, took care of the issue, and never had a problem. In April, the entire month of April and part of May, I called the office daily. I told Rich, I told Isaac, I told Shane, I was sending text messages that there's leakage coming up through my floors. They're wet, they're wet, they're wet, they're wet. They're telling me it's fresh water, but it's spreading, it's coming in through my carpets and through my kitchen. My kids are sick, my dog is sick, everything is going on. May 26th is when the backup happened in the laundry room. Now raw sewage is gushing up into my apartment, and that's what it was for that month and a half. Kathy was there, building department, health department was there. I had a big old, well, not literal red X, but I had a red X. I wasn't home for 6 weeks. I was bouncing back and forth between hotels, taking time off from work, the whole nine. I'm in the middle of a lawsuit for that because I've never been reimbursed for anything. They're actually trying to come after me for money, saying I owe them money for the time I wasn't living in the apartment.
Oh my God.
Yes, and over the past 2 months, I've been calling because my lease was coming to an end in December. Well, I thought it was December, but Morgan messed up and put me in an 11-month lease, not a 1-year lease. But I've been calling because I have electrical outlets not working. I have old, disgusting doors in my apartment that they were supposed to replace because Kathy said I needed new doors. They took outside doors and put them in my apartment, never painted them. The new moldings are falling off. I'm super gluing them. And I have primer on my wall, so I've been complaining for months and months and months. November, I should have. November 6th or 7th, somewhere right after, 2 days after Laura, I received an eviction notice. I'm a single mom with 2 kids and absolutely nowhere to go. But because I've been complaining and standing up for myself, I now have until December 31st to vacate my apartment, which I'm not going to do. I'm not in the financial position. I have no family. I have nobody here. I have nowhere to go, so I'm going to ride it out and just hope that when we get to court that the judge sees this as retaliation. I'm a good tenant. I keep my home clean. I have no complaints from neighbors. I've never been late on rent, not once.
Gentrification.
Oh, and I don't know if everybody's aware, but just a couple days ago, there was another fire in Sunset Gardens. Building 2, we only have maybe 6 washers and 6 dryers throughout the entire complex. And most of them, you know, they're disgusting. I actually wipe it down before I put my laundry in. But building 2 had a fire in the dryer. Again, just a couple days ago.
Maybe that was to fix those.
I know last month there was, for the second time.
I was very busy this weekend.
I know last month for the second time a resident in the back of the complex had her stove catch on fire again. Just a couple nights ago we had a stabbing in the complex. Or shooting, no, was it a shooting or stabbing? This is the second stabbing in a month and a half, and the owners want to evict good tenants, but they're leaving all of these people there. And unfortunately the stabbing, one of them was in front of my building and the other one's across from my building. And I have children, but the owners don't seem to care about that at all. Because these are the people that are not complaining about anything, so they're letting them stay.
Thank you, Liz.
That's it.
That's it, that's a lot.
Is there anybody here from Lakeshore Villas? Would either of you like to say something?
I'm sorry, I can't hear anything back here.
Oh, we didn't like
Bless
this.
her. Careful. Help her. Yeah, one week.
You can stay there. Stay right there. Don't get up.
I haven't been able to hear a lot, but I'm sympathizing with everything. They bought Lakeshore, I think it was in March.
Same as Sunset.
And some of the owners actually came around to meet with us, and I signed up, and they came into my apartment and admired it. I keep a very nice apartment. They told me all kinds of wonderful things that were going to happen that still haven't happened. For instance, if you're not familiar with Lakeshore, they came in and they tore the place apart. They're putting up siding. Yeah, siding. And to put up the siding, they had to take down our lights outside our doors because our buildings are separate. So we have a stairway to walk in, and it's into the 4th week now that we have no lights out there. So when I go home tonight, I will park in my handicapped space, but there's no light in the little lamppost light. There's no lights on the landings, no lights outside my door. I carry a flashlight with me so that I can see where to put my key in.
Have you reported that to your building inspector?
Oh, absolutely. What do you mean building
The
inspector?
building inspector for the town of Silvis.
No. I've told Rich about it maybe 4 times.
There's that name again.
Yeah, what you need to do is call your building inspector or even the town supervisor and let.
There's a building inspector in Port Ewan?
Yes.
Okay, I did not, why are you laughing? I did not know that.
No, we're not laughing at you.
Yeah, what-
They're laughing.
But I think I'm probably the only one here tonight. And I've spoken with neighbors, and everybody's very angry and upset, but nobody would come with me.
Well,
Because
good for
they're
you.
afraid.
That's right.
They're afraid their leases won't be renewed,
Yeah.
Intimidation.
you know.
So I would make, Karen, could you meet? Okay. So, thank you very much, and thank you for being here for just this reason. So that's one thing everybody needs to learn in this room, and that's a resident. If you're not getting the results from Rich or Isaac or I think that's about, or Shane, I don't know how many other complexes he works for, but you've got to call your town government. And that's part of that guide that I am talking about. I think to have that information so that you know you have somebody to go to is very important. And you're also from, is there anything you'd like to say?
Well, it's exactly the same thing Mrs. Gross said. With the snow removal, when they did all the sidings, they took down all the awnings, which shielded everybody from the weather. Now when you walk out, because we walk out into the open air, rain, snow, and they did not come to, yeah, and we were used to 8:30, that bullhorn would beep, and everybody would have to move their cars. They had it so organized for all these years, we've been there forever, and it's just awful.
Yeah, we had the same thing, and they never cleaned up the leaves, so now all the sewer drains are clogged with leaves, so that, and they plowed and piled leaves, it was a
It's
mess.
just a big mess.
Yeah,
I think it's cold enough to have ice.
sure.
They repainted all the hallways and everything, a year ago, year and a half. They never put any of the numbers back on any of the doors.
Oh, yeah, our doors don't.
So I work as a paramedic.
Oh,
So
that's a really
I
good.
wouldn't know even my neighbors if I got called there, and I live in that complex.
I'm hearing from over here that's a code violation.
Yeah.
So
So you-
I just Googled Sal Morello is your building
Okay.
inspector for the town of Esopus. That's who
Yeah,
you
I'll
need
I'll
to
try
be
to
asking.
give them a call.
I reached out to the building inspector for the town of Esopus, and I was told that he has no issues with any of the properties in Esopus.
Has he been there?
I
Sorry,
asked because I was
Then I would
reaching
go to
out to
the
the
town.
building inspector to try to find common ground.
If I
Yeah,
could
no,
just
I
say
didn't- I
something
didn't.
on behalf of the Silvis, my name is Jared Gerson, the councilman. The number is 845-339-1811.
Yes.
All right, just make sure. Now, Sal has been to a couple properties, we're still looking at everything. And that's why we're taking notes tonight. And also, that's why I'm here, because we are very concerned for all the residents.
Jared, what's your last name?
Gers, G-E-U-S-S.
I worked with Sal when he was a building inspector in Wappingers, and he was pretty responsive.
He's
so
he's
it
very
doesn't-
good,
it
so we're gonna
doesn't
make
sound
sure, we're
like-
gonna take a
yeah.
look, I'll talk to him tomorrow.
Yeah, and that's why,
we'll
like, I
make
didn't
sure.
mean for that to slip out, but I mean,
No, it's,
to walk in, there's no numbers on the doors, so like, how can you have no issues when it's that?
you could
blatantly-
probably call the fire
Yeah.
inspector for that too. That's
Yeah,
also
I've been here listening to all of this, and it seems to me that any of the whistleblowers that are saying something to the building inspectors are getting evicted. Now, I've heard 2 people right now. I'm not sure how many other ones there are, but you need to let Mr. Gerst know to keep that under confidentiality, because if they expose their names to this corporation, they're gonna get evicted.
No,
That's right.
But
We
the
can keep it
only problem
confidential.
is, you have a problem in your apartment. I had to call Kathy, I had this leak coming down, my ceiling light was shorting out. They had to come to my apartment, so there's only a certain amount of cover. So do you live with that, or do you get help and get it fixed?
So the city of Kingston does inspections once every 2 years, which granted isn't enough, but it seems like it would maybe be easy enough for each municipality to pass something quickly, where they were able to inspect.
There's a law,
Just come in and do it.
residence law every 3 years. If there are any multiple residences.
And I would imagine if a new owner takes over, you could use that as the cause to go in and do an inspection at a full
Well,
inspection. With notice.
with Sunset Gardens, we had just finished the cycle, and there were a couple of things that needed to be taken care of before they would be able to, before E&M would take it from Morgan. So anything that had been an issue at that time was taken care of. So now we're out of cycle, we have to wait. It's 3 years, the way that
But you have legislators here. What if there was a legislation of once you receive so many complaints based on fire safety and code violations, then a full enforcement, because then you could complain anonymously to the department and still get the entire property.
I understand what you're saying, and I would tend to agree, except you have to understand that with some of these bigger complexes, this is not an hour job.
Oh, I see that, I do understand.
You know,
But
and
maybe if they're
then when
failing,
you're
they
doing
have to
that,
pay for
everything
it.
else sits back, but.
Maybe if they're failing, then they have to pay for it.
Okay, we have one more person who wanted to speak, and I see her hand up, I believe. Juanita, also from Sunset Garden.
Thank you, Lisa. My name is Juanita, and I live in Sunset Gardens. I am a resident. In May of 2018 is when I started this fight against E&M management. Due to the fact they have a staff member by the name of James, that 5 women, including my daughter, were sexually harassed by him. Okay, management did nothing about it. Police stated it was a management problem. He was peeking in women's windows, okay? Looking at them and coming up to them and sexually telling them very nasty things that an old man at the age of 60 should not be telling an 18 or 19-year-old. So he pissed off his mom, all right? So, not only that, Sunset Gardens E&M management there are 27 properties that they own, okay, they own, okay? Out of the 27 properties, each and every one of them has violations. Section 8 in one county sided with their tenants and withheld the rent. And they are still withholding the rent to this day until E&M management gets the building taken away. They are in litigation at this moment to remove the building from E&M management. Okay, so it's not just here. It's in all their properties. Even in Florida. This is in New York State, and they have some in Florida. Now, I can stand here and tell you over and over again the complaints about E&M management, but pretty much all of you have heard it. They're stealing, they're not repairing, people are being evicted, I'm being evicted. Okay, I'm starting a committee, I was working with Citizen Action. They're in the process of bringing another housing agent in, so we're hoping that we can work with them as well as other organizations. I also have a lawyer that is in the process that if you guys want to sign up, they will help you sue them, because we have a lawsuit, okay, for damages. Okay, this is what we are planning to do. If you give me a second, I just lost my points here. So we need to go in with all these other organizations that are going against E&M management all over New York State, because they are trying to take this management into litigations. Now, like I said, I can stand here all day and tell you about all the problems about E&M management, or I can tell you how to fix the problem. Because in 2019, we don't have rent regulations up here in Kingston. Neither does Nassau, neither does Rochester, neither does Westchester. We don't have any kind of rent stabilization. We don't have no just cause evictions. So my thing is, when I'm standing here, is I'm talking to the people of Kingston, we need to do something, our officials. It's time, because it's not just E&M management. This is all of the landlords that we have in Kingston. Because what happens is, and no offense to the building, but I have one case where my electric is still not done yet. We were supposed to go to remedy to go to court. I haven't seen no court date. If you're ready to take them to court, then take them to court and find them. Why do you have to wait for us to call back again and say, oh no, they did not fix it? There has to be follow-up. There is no follow-up with this. Okay, and it's all over. Like I said, it's not just E&M management. I have met other families that are living in the most inhumane conditions for landlords that have been told to the buildings. And buildings know that these are the landlords that have many numerous violations. So why doesn't you all just stop giving them an occupancy, to give, what is that called again? Certificate of occupancy, okay? And make them fix all their other properties until they can rent that out. Punish them that way. Make them fix the ones that are living in there. Make them fix those apartments. Why you keep giving them an occupancy certificate when they're not even fixing the first one? I don't find that fair to any tenant, okay? I mean, we have all, it's like, okay, let's put it this way. Last Wednesday, same as me. In one town, in one county, they were just cited for turning off the heat and the hot water right before Thanksgiving. Guess what? So did it happen in Sunset Gardens. I'm not the only one without heat since Thanksgiving. Okay, and then I called the building, let them know. They called me back in the morning, said they would be there. I called back, stated that I had a meeting at 4 o'clock. What time do you think they showed up at my door? At 4 o'clock. Do you think I was going to let those nasty ass men into my apartment with my daughters? You'll be damned if I was going to let that happen. They already sexually harassed one of my children. I'll be damned if they try doing it to another. Okay? We also have them stealing. I have some stories that I can't release right now until I get permission because these tenants are scared. But there is a tenant that actually has Isaac and Richard threatening him on tape. Okay? There's another lady who has it on tape because she's pregnant. Okay? And she's in a 2-bedroom. So she has 2 kids. This will be number 3. But by law, you're able to stay in the apartment. If we had the law up here, we don't have that law in any tenants for the rent stabilization. You're allowed to stay in the apartment for 1 year until the baby is a year, and then you have to move into a bigger apartment. But if it's a 2-bedroom, 4 people can live there. So if she wanted to keep the baby all in one room, that is allowable. But no, he's evicting her. And this is what the town of Kingston is allowing to do over and over again. It's not just Sunset Gardens, it's all throughout Ulster County. So legislation needs to get together. And right now, me and Rashid are putting together a meeting on January 8th, where if you want to come into that class action lawsuit, you can sign up with us, okay? Join us in the fight to also bring just cause evictions up here. Join us into the fight to have universal rent control and have the legislation put Kingston on that map, because we're not on it, so you don't have no rights. Do you want the rights? Then come together and let's put it. Because unless we talk together, I can say no. You say no, please. Just say no. Okay. She said no. Did you hear her loud? She has a voice, but it wasn't loud enough. But if we all said no together, we're going to have a voice. Now, I can speak. And I will speak. I have no problem standing up. If you just all stand behind me, we can get rent control up here. We can have universal rent control. We can have just cause evictions, and we can get the legislation to put it into writing. And we can have it as a law. And we can also have as a law, if the landlords do not fix, well, fine them. Don't wait no more. Don't give them 30 days. If it happens to be no heat, 24 hours, if not in court. That's it. You are fast enough to take every tenant to court and evict them immediately, but you will not do it to a landlord. I find that disgusting. I'm sorry. Okay? Now, I'm fighting because I'm a tenant of choice. Not because I have to be a tenant, because I have a house. Okay? I can get up and go and be a homeowner again, no problem. But that's not the reason. I have children, I have grandchildren. And if this is how they're gonna live, this is ridiculous. I mean, people want money, and it's all about the money. These landlords, for every empty apartment, get about $23,000 in tax cuts. Okay? We get $50 if we're late, but what when they're late under fixing our apartment? Can we charge them? No. We get thrown out for complaining.
That's right.
So it's time now that it stops. So legislation, understand, legislators, senators, whoever, guess what? I'm gonna be at your door and I'm gonna stand there until you sign the damn paper. So if you want to find out, I do have it, and if you want to understand, also this came from Citizen Actions when they gave it out to me. I have it in English and Spanish, but it's all about universal rent control. And together, we can actually get this. I have a meeting coming up on January 8th. Please, my phone number is on here. Please RSVP so I know how big of a place I need to get. I already got 50 people willing to be in the class action lawsuit and to sign up for this.
Juanita,
Yes, baby.
you have someone here that would love to respond to you, and I think you need to take advantage of that. And
Okay,
you did a great job just now. I just need you to know that.
Who else is attending?
You gotta grab Juanita sometime.
Supervisor Quigley, can we have your attention, please, over here?
I just want to make everyone aware. The topic that she raised over rent control is a state issue. Your first point of contact should be Assemblyman Kevin Cahill, 338-9610. That's 338-9610. He's the Assemblyman for this area. Legislation of this type starts in Albany, goes through the state Senate and the Assembly. It does not come through the town board. We do not have the legislative authority to do laws like this. Second of all, I want to make this point. If anyone sees a crime, please report it to the Town of Ulster Police. 382-1111. That's 382-1111. There was reference made to a stabbing last week. I've gotten texts back and forth between the police chief, the lieutenant, and the head of detectives. We have no police report.
Could it have gone through state police instead of the local?
It would have been sent to us. We would have had knowledge of it. We have no knowledge. So if there is a crime, it has to be reported. Juanita, you raised your hand when I started to say something about the police.
Yeah, because when we reported the sexual harassment in the 50 times, the police didn't do anything about it. We showed
There
them.
are certain crimes where their evidence disappears with time. If someone's peeping in your window and he walks away and somebody comes and sees him, he's not looking in your window. It's your word versus their word.
5 women.
5
women came forward and the police did nothing.
Can you give me the date and time?
I can get it for you.
Please. And I'll look into it.
Ms. Quigley, if I might say, as far as the stamping goes, I know Ulster County Police were aware of it because I was...
Town of Ulster Police.
Town of Ulster were aware of it because as I was going to work at 10 o'clock at night, 10:30, they were flying past me into Sunset Gardens.
Well, we get tons of calls there. I know because I get them on my phone.
When I came home the following morning, I was informed that there was a stabbing.
What day?
That was Friday night.
Friday night.
Friday after Thanksgiving?
Yes. No, I'm sorry. Yeah, the Friday after Thanksgiving.
Was it Friday or Saturday?
Friday.
Friday, right?
Yeah.
Now, as far as the town's responsibility, we are responsible for enforcing the state building codes and the electric codes. We are responsible for enforcing local life safety codes. I've been getting emails, my toilet runs, pictures of the drains not running.
leaves on the porches. We can't do anything about it, that's a maintenance issue. It doesn't affect life safety. The issue that Eric brought up about the GFI receptacle not working in the bathroom, that's a life safety issue. The issue brought up by his significant other about the lack of numbers on the doors, that's a life safety issue. The lack of lights brought up in Lakeshore Villas, that's a life safety issue. Kathy spends 1 day a week at this project. Ever since they took over, we've been spending 1 day a week. The other day when the water line broke, it was the town water department that fixed it. Because we got there, we found out what it was, they called me, they told me it was on their property. I said, I don't care, I want it fixed, I want it fixed now. And we fixed it. And I sent them a bill for $5,000 and we got a check. So what I'm saying, report the criminal issues to the police, report the life safety building issues to Kathy's office, and we will do the best we can. Now, as far as your efforts to get additional regulation, that has to go through Assemblyman Kevin Cahill and Senator George Amador's local office, and I will do it. Excuse me? What was the comment? Amador's office is 331-3810.
So while I agree that Kevin Cahill and Senator Amador are point people who are ultimately going to push this through the respective government bodies, I think the first point of contact would actually be the people who are organizing the tenants in this room. Because coming together is the only way.
You are absolutely right about that.
Those officials. So Juanita, Laura, and anyone else who's organizing tenants in the room, the people together, that is your first point of contact. And then going to the officials, once you have it together. So coming together is the first point. Sorry.
That's okay.
And the meeting for that will be on January 8th. So please sign the papers, and if you want to come to it, we will have people from Albany there to show us what the regulations and everything is about, so.
Kathy would like to respond to a couple of things also.
I want to explain a bit the process of when we get a complaint, okay? Because it's complicated, but let's say somebody calls in, they have a complaint, I try to make contact, we verify the complaint is there, and I issue an order to remedy. New York State has put a time limit of 30 days on complaints. I can't say do it tomorrow unless it's a matter of life or death. Okay, so if there's a building code violation and I issue the order to remedy and it's not fixed within 30 days, then I can do an appearance ticket to court. I have to follow the process because if I don't, it can be dismissed. And I don't like going to court and having the judge tell me no.
And it is fair, I'm a landlord, and by 30 days, I usually get done. I usually get done the next day.
Nina, okay, hold on, Nina.
Gosh, I had so many comments on, let me see. First, I want to comment on thank you for explaining the process, that's great to know. But, if I could piggyback on what Rashida said, and also what Mr. Quigley said, going in the direction of actually fixing this is a couple of directions. I think as anybody political here, we need to get together. We need to have a meeting because this man or this company has come to our community and they're doing a domino effect. So I wanted to know if the building inspectors would be willing to do a meeting. Well, not just you because you've been good about coming to meetings, but all of the building inspectors that are represented here tonight. I'd love to have a meeting with them, possibly the mayors or town supervisors. Mr. Quigley should not be the only person that's actually showing up and saying, not in my town, you know what I mean? And the only way that this man was able to continue to buy property is because these people have been talking about it and afraid or intimidated, but they haven't received the support that they should get. And that's where I think that we need, as city officials, we need to get involved. We need to have a meeting, and maybe we can discuss this with this company, because it's way bigger than a housing issue. This is a community issue, and it's going to cause issues. I mean, an elderly woman who's actually worried about if she's getting in safely when she leaves this meeting should not have to even come out to this meeting, shouldn't have even gone to this point. And I think we need to give more support, and I'm going to try to pull together a meeting, and I don't think at that meeting it should just be closed to supervisors and hopefully mayors, and building inspectors. If people want to come and see that they're actually being supported, it's very important. So if you can bring them here, I'd like to actually pull together a meeting, and I hope you guys are not sick of doing this, because this man is pretty bold. This company is pretty bold. Like, there are citizens that have actually taken action against this man in lower cities, and we actually allowed him to come here, not by one complex, but several. So originally this just came to human rights, and I think this man, or this group, whoever they are, they've actually looked at things because they knew that they could actually let these leases run out. They knew what they were doing. But gentrification is not okay. It's not okay. And to dishevel people, like disabled people, elderly people, how can we as citizens in the same community just stand by and say, oh, well, it's within 30 days. First of all, that raw sewage thing, that was a life-threatening thing. Those flashing lights where the girl came before and said she ended up in the hospital, that's life-threatening.
That was me as well in the hospital.
Yes, and like my mama said, dear by the grace of God, God, if we let this man continue, it's going to be so ugly. And like, we have to actually be more supportive as representatives here. So I'm going to pull together a meeting, and I hope I can get everybody. I don't know how to do it, through Laura maybe, for Sunset Gardens. Laura's done a lot of work. Juanita's done a lot of work. Everybody in this room, and I mean Citizens Action, you have a lot of people coming here in support, but without city officials to be a background, a backdrop for these intimidators, because they shouldn't have been allowed to continue to buy property. If they didn't take care of Sunset Gardens, how are they buying anything else in our community? So I'm going to pull together a meeting. I hope we can continue this on another level, because it's crazy. It could be us. It could be our mothers. It could be our sisters. Anybody else in the community should not be affected after these other. And where are these people supposed to go? When they get evicted, where are they supposed to go? It's disgusting. Like, how dare us let this man come here and do this? So
it is disgusting. And to piggyback on what you said, you know, you do have Kevin Cahill to go to, but you're looking at trying to draft a law at the state level, which basically has to be a statewide problem. I'm not sure if we're addressing this as a statewide problem right now. So we could tackle things little by little. We got together, we drafted a law for a human rights law about discriminating, about giving people renting places to people, fair jobs and so on and so forth. But that's on something that's a pattern of discrimination. This has no discrimination barriers. This is all about money. So what we need to do is, I think you guys need to talk to the legislature here in the county first. Let's hit it at the county level first. And see what kind of law that we can draft and stop this guy from abusing you as human beings. That's where I think we need to start.
Could a local municipality draft a law or a code that pulls an operating permit for an apartment complex if they can fix violations, or if they have so many violations? Or I mean, it's a question.
And not to interrupt again, but how do you kick people out? How do you, whether he did it tactful or not, how do you kick people out when you didn't even adhere to the amenities that they're supposed to have? They didn't even have washrooms. You have raw sewage backing up from washing machines, and you're telling me I'm getting out?
He's doing it because he's not breaking the law.
We
have to create a law so he breaks it, and then we fine him.
Yes, he's not.
And then when you hit him in the pocket, he won't do it again.
He's not breaking the law, and it doesn't say in the lease there's this many washers and dryers. since we provide washers.
They were
You could
locked.
have-
No.
But I mean, you could have two